Yo, 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 what up? What up? What up? Live Reality Games Podcast. It's your boy, DB. I'm back again, and I brought some friends. Survivor, Angelica, Medieval Mayhem, episode 8, Storm Warning. We're recapping it, and, it's been 8 hellacious episodes. It's been really good episodes, and the LRG awards that are out there. I mean, I'm biased and I'll vote for Survivor Angelica for every award and all the cast members for every award just because that's how I feel. But tonight we got to recap a really, really good episode. And in order to recap it, we got to bring the primetime players. So T is not here. She's not with us. She's at Alcatraz. They got her locked up. At least I saw that on the socials. So she's out and about. But we do have Natasha. Natasha, what's up?
Hey,
big episode.
Great to be here. I'm so excited.
Yes. It was a big episode for you. And we got Katie. Katie, what up? So, Katie, everybody's been asking, where's Natasha? Where's Katie? Where's Natasha? Every week. So now we have you guys, and I'm happy that you guys get a chance to join us. Obviously, Natasha, this was your episode, and we'll get to all that. And Katie, you've had, over the past few weeks, I think, I'll get kind of your perspective on your game thus far. But you've really, like, the first couple episodes kind of low key, and these past few episodes, you've maybe not had a whole ton of camera time, but the camera time that you've had in confessionals is very telling as far as the game that you're trying to play. So I'll ask you this, Katie. Up until this point, how do you think your game's going? Are you in a good position? Do you think you're in a good position? Or are you like, oh, shit, like I got to do more?
I think at this point I'm socially in a good position. And I think I'm aware of where all the advantages are, which is helpful. And I think I have a good holding on like the strategy of the game. And I think it's working for me that I suck at challenges. I think that is something that will always work for me. And so, I think my most screen time in the episode so far has been me like trying to throw that wooden block at the peg that you did, Storm, in like your first try. And it was like her 90th like infinity time shooting. And I was like, I did it for the airtime. Like, I'm not going to get airtime for being great at a challenge, so I'll just suck at a challenge.
Stop it. Is that for real?
So I thought, not during it, but after I realized Natasha had thrown the chicken wire challenge.
Wait, what?
Wait, you really did?
That's hey, I'm just telling you what the group consensus was. But I thought, I was like, I don't think Katie would throw that challenge.
No, I wasn't throwing it.
Okay,
I just sucked. I'm being honest about sucking. Yeah. I was not throwing. I was throwing it, but I wasn't throwing it. Yeah.
Right. But I thought that because I was like, when we swapped tribes, you guys had numbers and you were in good shape. And it was like, well, you didn't necessarily have to win because I didn't think any of you guys would be in trouble. And if you felt in trouble, like, then you had some power to save yourself. So I really didn't know, but everyone talked me off that ledge. You're like, no, Katie's not going to throw that challenge. She's not going to do that. And I believed them. But I wanted to ask.
No way.
So, obviously socially you're in a good spot. You have some power, you have some tools to work with, and you get swapped to a tribe that, is beneficial to you. We're, Old Thane is in numbers, and then, we merge, and it's still, it's like a merge, but it's still like we swap tribes because the next 2 challenges that we see this past week, we were split tribes in both of them. And so it's almost to the point now where, well, okay, like how many times are we going to have to deal with, these multifaceted immunity challenges where we're possibly going to have multiple tribals because we're split into 2 groups. And, that's what you saw in this episode. Natasha, I'll ask you, when we swap tribes at that point, obviously before Hannah does, her flipping and all that, did you guys feel like you were in a good spot, or did you feel like you were in a good spot?
Definitely felt like we were in a great spot. But for some reason, I still felt like I did need to throw the chicken wire challenge. I halfway did, but I halfway didn't. It was like a real struggle in my head. So I would say that, to get back to that, I guess I did throw it, but I was still really trying hard. So there was that. I knew that I was definitely going to lose the challenge with the ball on it, and that would be the end of it. But going into that moment, I did feel like we were doing pretty good, but I wanted to do better. And so Chad had talked to me and said that he thought that it would be a smart move if I lost on my end, so that way we could have more numbers on his side. And so it was definitely a mind F. But I probably could have done a little better.
I mean, what's crazy is what I enjoy about this is we had no idea. And then we turn around and we put you in the most clutch position in the very next challenge with the numbered dice. And you crushed it. I don't even know how you did it so fast, but had we known,
like, that's simple math. I'm pretty good at simple math.
I mean,
pretty sure I graduated second grade, and I can count
add
to 10
to 10.
ways.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of these challenges, when it comes to the puzzles and stuff, I really do think they're simple in nature, and everyone kind of overthinks them because they're we're far beyond the second grade thinking capacity, especially when you're in these games.
I will have to say, when I had to do the fire challenge where I had to do the puzzle where it was blue and purple.
Oh, that sucked.
Yeah. It would have been a lot easier if the colors were more apart on the color wheel.
Yeah.
So I will say that.
Orange and red. That would have been nice.
Exactly. I am definitely, my intelligence was not insulted by that one, because that was the puzzle's fault, not mine.
Yeah, absolutely. So we start the episode, and T is classic T. She's
so great.
She's on level 10 again, and she's like, I gotta keep an eye on everybody. I gotta keep an eye on Hannah. I gotta keep an eye on Tasha. I gotta keep an eye on Joelle. I just gotta make sure nobody finds anything.
Where's Natasha's babysitter?
Yes, exactly.
And I was like, okay, I'll go follow her around. But the reality is we could see you. we didn't have to be right next to you. But and I'm fully believing if you found something, I feel like you would have been like, I have something now. Who's ready to do something? Because we would have had to.
I mean, I was always finding something because I felt like I was the only one out in the woods. But more so towards when I knew I was going to be an outcast. Definitely at that point, I was like, well, I'm not going to win the social game, so I might as well just keep searching.
I couldn't come babysit you because I was like, if I go babysit her and we start talking, I'm going to want to work with her and I'm going to totally screw up everything. Because there's no way that I can hang out with her and not work with her. I was like, I have to stay far away. Someone else babysit her.
I do wish that they showed, there was a part that they missed where I was begging Katie. I'm like, I have these scrolls, and I don't know what I was pitching you other than I was making stuff up.
You were doing amazing.
I was saving little beads if I saw them by the bathroom, any type of string or anything I could find. I was saving it all. I mean, obviously everyone caught on to me, but
you're super strategic, and I think you're super likable, and that's such a crazy combination, because you were saying all this stuff to me and I knew you were coming from the bot, you knew you were next, so you were saying whatever, but I'm like, she's making me want to do this. And I walk over to Paige and Storm, who I'm working with, and I'm like, and you're kind of saying the same stuff to them, but they're giving you less, they're going on.
Paige freaking owed me. I had to pretend that I was riding a horse and not a cowboy for 24 hours. Come on.
Oh, good.
You did a fantastic job, though. I will say that you were the right person for that job. Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So Katie, Santi and you mentioned at the opening of the episode, like the prior tribal where Ayla goes home, you guys are like, that's not the drama that we were looking for.
Mm.
Um, when it comes to tribals and you have these live tribal situations, what's your plan or your strategy? Are you trying to get the information, or are you trying to wait back and see if people bring it to you, or are you kind of
Like
just
at the
like,
tribal itself.
yeah, because
You know, I have a really big personality, and in Survivor games, my downfall is letting my big personality out. So, my husband drives me to these games. He's like, all right, are you ready to like be introverted and like put yourself away? Like, if you're gonna go far in a game, you gotta take a seat back and just like let things. So I went into this game and these tribals, like, I'm staying as quiet as possible. I'm not getting involved in anything. And I'll speak if I'm spoken to, but I'm not opening my mouth, you know? So my strategy was be less. And it was
I mean,
it was less fun.
I'll say this. I think you and I never really communicated a whole lot together. We knew up front, like,
And you didn't talk to anyone.
that's
Okay,
not
you didn't
true.
talk to me.
That's
You
not
talked to
true.
T.
I talked to people. I was more like Katie. I came into the game going, let me evaluate and analyze the game and see where I need to input. But I
Mhm,
felt as though I was running in a good spot. Um, by not being this outwardly vocal, because
mhm,
I find T and I start getting together and it's very hard to be too vocal. I
mhm,
can't match that. So at some point I got to go, all right, well, I'm going to continue to play the game that I'm playing. It seems to be working right now, but
mhm,
I think because we were very like in that mode, Katie, we didn't really talk. And I think had we talked, you would have maybe realized, because I don't think you realized, I didn't think of you as the number 4 in that group of 4.
mhm,
Um, I
mhm.
thought of you as someone who is playing the game really well, and I didn't really have a number like, Tara was my number 1 from the jump, only because we were together at the very beginning. And
Yeah,
so with you and Santi, it was just I didn't really even number like one of you ahead of the other. I just was like, all right, I'll, you know, roll with these 4, and we'll
yeah.
we'll keep each other safe. But I probably should have had more conversations with you, because it seems like you were ready to part ways with me. And I think it was just because I didn't really say much to you.
So that's exactly what it was on my end. Like I tried to be less in a group setting, but one-on-one I tried to be myself. And myself is more connected. And so at some point very early on in the game, it became very clear to me that Santi and Tara were very close, and they were like go off on smoke breaks and they were close. And then when the super idol and the idol landed with both of them, I was like, that's a dangerous duo if I'm not part of it. And then I saw you start to hang out with them, and I was like, Dan's onto it. He knows that that's a dangerous duo if he's not into it. And then the three of you, I felt like the three of you were really close. And at that point, at the way beginning of the game, I was really close with Paige, and we had kind of had like a final 2 thing. And then I was really close with Jess and kind of had a final 2 thing. And then I was really close with T and kind of had a let's go really far together. And then I feel like I was working with the people that didn't have the power. And so I think day one, very early on, me and Tara, when I knew that her and Santi were together, I was like, I need to get on that. And we were all in the bedroom, right? We were claiming the room.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was being open with Tara. I was like, are you working with Dan? Like, I want to be in on that. And I think she called you into that room. The 4 of us stood there,
Yes.
and Tara silently went like this and just like the four. And
Yep.
we like locked in that 4. And I was locked in that 4. And I think our mistake, Dan, was that because that 4 felt locked in, we never talked. It was like we took advantage of being in this 4 together, but we never really connected.
Yeah.
So I didn't think you were really with me. I was like, it was right place, right time. He committed to that 4, but I'm not really his person. So then you weren't mine, you know?
Right. That makes sense. And then obviously we get to the point where we swap tribes, and that really kind of throws a wrench into us being
Right.
able to work together. And
Right.
Natasha, we swapped. Hannah flips. Things go crazy. Obviously, you do everything in your power, and you stay alive. And here we are in this episode, going into an immunity as a merged tribe. And then Jason goes, "Oh, by the way, we're gonna split you guys up into two
Sure.
separate teams." And we're like, "Okay."
Mhm.
I think we pulled cards or something. I can't really remember like how. I think we pulled cards, and that's how the teams were decided, or the two sets were decided. But we for the immunity, we had to balance a ball on a disc. That was it. And every 5 minutes, we had to live transition our hands, switch hands and go further down this pole that held this disc. Needless to say, that part of the challenge didn't even matter because nobody made it there. But
I
the
knew if I
first,
didn't win that, I knew I was out. That was
yeah.
it. I knew it. So it was very
Well,
poignant for me.
well, team one, Tara, T, Jess, Santi, and Joel. Joel wins immunity. Did a great job, and I think that might have been. I don't know this. I would like to ask his opinion on this, but I think him winning immunity might have saved him there.
I agree.
I don't know. I know him and Santi had a final two, according to him, later in the episode. And Joel didn't feel as though he was in danger, but when I look at those names and those numbers, it would, to me, I don't know. I think it could have went that way. I could see it going to T. I could have seen it going to Jess too, but you know, either way, Joel does a good job, wins immunity, and then we switch. And obviously, Natasha, you're going into it saying, I have to win immunity. Katie, what's your thought going into that? Just try to win, I want to win, or is this one where you're like, this is like throwing a stick at a block? I'm not like, this ain't for
The
me.
stick the block, I was trying my hardest. I just sucked. I didn't think I needed to win, but I also think that Santi was another idol for Joel. I think that Santi was going to protect him. I think on paper he needed it, and that's where I would have wanted my vote to go. And I would have pushed for that had he not won. But I kind of think that Santi, the second he was with Joel, he was protected. So I think that we would have been, I think that was dangerous.
I don't know that we knew that at the time, though.
Yeah, right.
I would have liked to have known when Santi and Joel decided that they're going to make a final
Joel
two.
was my number 3. He was my number 2. He was my number 2. So it was Chad and it was Joel. And so it was really hard that he took a turn on all of us.
You hid that well. I had no clue. I knew you were with Chad, but I didn't know that you and Joel were so tight.
Yeah.
Well, I was tight to him. I don't know if he was tight to me.
I think he was, but it was just well hidden.
Yeah. So we end up switching spots. Team 2 goes into the challenge. It's me, it's you, Natasha, it's you, Katie, Paige, and Hannah. And Paige goes first, followed by Hannah, and then Natasha, you go third, and you're saying to yourself, I have to win this. So when your ball falls off the disc, what are you thinking then?
I just knew.
Did you immediately go looking for idols?
Well, like this sounds a little whatever. It sounds whatever it is. Like I pray to St. Anthony. I'm like, please help me find an idol. I look down on the ground and I see something on the ground. I'm not even trying. It's in plain sight. It was like, I'm still looking for my husband's truck keys from last summer. It didn't work. It doesn't work all the time, right? But in that circumstance, it worked. And I pick it up and I just was like, oh my God. It's so I tried to play like that against everyone. Like, please, I'll give you this. If you give me immunity, And then I decided I'm going to go walk on the other side where the other tribe had been. And at that point, I'm like, well, if there's one-on-one, there might be one on another side of where we were being separated. But I didn't actually find anything over there. So I had to make it up. And I had all the supplies to do that. But no, I knew I was done. I knew it.
And then, so Katie, it comes down to you and I, and I'll be honest, like when I was practicing this, like we had like maybe like a minute and a half to like practice this before we actually started, and I was doing terrible. I was like, there's no way. Like when it was you and I at the end, I was like, something's gonna happen. This ball is gonna eventually roll off this disc, and Katie's gonna win. Um, Let me ask you this: had you have won that immunity challenge, um, would our vote have still been the same?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And the reason I asked is because my name had been thrown out there before, and in prior to that, it was a couple of battles trying to stay in the game, having Jess play her idol on me, and that whole tribal was crazy to begin with, and I think inevitably I wouldn't have gone home, but it was nice that Jess did that and kept me in the game because she stayed true to her word. Like we all collected these, and if I need to use it for someone, I will, and she did. But I win the immunity. I feel good about that, but then I start thinking, all right, that's 2 in a row. Like, do you guys even think about that? Like, you've played multiple games before, Katie. Like, if someone wins two immunity idols in a row, like, does that become like a target? Do you think too much about that? Or is like, we'll see how this goes?
I think that your wins were starting to be very apparent. And I think that your relationship with Hannah was very apparent. And I think that me feeling on the bottom of the 4 was very apparent. I think it was just a recipe for disaster for you from my lens, you know, and a lot of that's out of your control. But I think that for me, you just became a threat all of a sudden. Like, I didn't want to go against you until I did. And then I was like, nope.
What about you, Natasha? Are you someone who is like, if you're going into an immunity situation and you've already won one, do you think about not winning one just because you don't want to be a target?
Well, I've never been an A++ at anything. So in my mind, if I was an A++ in any situation, I am that competitive where it's kind of like that chicken wire thing, right?
Right.
It's a pull, and I don't know always which way I'm going to go. And I guess that's part of the reason why I ended up crazy on this season.
I think for me, my competitive nature kicks in, and I just don't have it in me to just lose or just throw it. Like if I get beat, that's fine, and like that happens a lot.
Well, it's
but
the short game versus the long game, though. I don't see it as I don't see the temporary loss as the overall loss.
Right.
So that's why there's that push and pull.
And that's where like I don't know. I like to win, and like it's hard to like put it like it's hard to lose and go, you did that. Like, why would you do that? But anyhow, we move on, and I coined the phrase "the storm is coming," and Natasha, that was for you. The storm was coming, and I love you as a person, but in this
I appreciate that because I actually feel really bad at how there wasn't anything I didn't like about you. I would have loved to have worked with you.
Right.
But you were, I was trying to form this all girls thing, and which is really funny because it was the anti-strategy from the beginning part of my game where I just wanted to be the only girl with all these guys. But no, we just never really had the opportunity. We didn't have the opportunity to be on the same side, but it's nothing personal.
So basically you said the magic word that like just set me off, which is all the girls. And like that had been like a coined term that I had heard multiple times now. And now like it actually has some weight because we're in tribal and you're like pitching this and you're pitching it fucking well. And I'm like, holy shit. And this is, Katie mentioned this, I think, is that if you can't let Natasha get to the end because you're very eloquently when you speak very eloquently and you're very persuasive. And like in that moment, I was like, if I survive this, I've got to get her out of this game. She is just my whole game is wrapped around her and what she's doing, and I can't function like that. So that's
That is
kind of
such a
where,
compliment. Thank you.
yeah. And so like whatever you were going for chaotically, you did it, because I was not in my right element, and I probably second guessing, like, you know, a lot of things, like, because of you, and that's a great gameplay on your end. So, you know, and I'm not the only one. Like, you
Totally.
created a lot of stress for a lot of people in this game. And I
When
mean,
someone's pitching to you the worst thing you could possibly do for your game, and you're considering it because they're likable and entertaining and you want to work with them, it's like, I can't change my mind.
right.
Death of me if I change my mind. Get out of my face. I'm going to go with you. Stop.
That's awesome. That's
Oh,
awesome.
it's the worst.
That's excellent.
She's like, you know, she just starts speaking, and like you like
Yeah.
fall into this
Oh, yeah.
daze, and like you're just like, okay, whatever you say.
Yeah, whatever you say. Do you have a coin? Do you have more coin?
Yeah.
And then when you got up at tribal, I thought you were whipping something out. I'm like, here she is. Like, you always found your way out of whatever. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
So let's talk about that. You know, we see Jess. She feels good because she's hearing it's tea. You know, we hear Paige say that her and you, Katie, wanted to flush that super idol. What was up to this point? What was the scenario like? How come you guys weren't able to pull off flushing that? Because, you know, I know my perspective, because, you know, we really just didn't have the opportunity, because as soon as we would have had the opportunity, we were swapped and then split again after merge. So you spent some time with her on the swap. Like, was there talks during the swap prior to merge that let's get this thing out of the game?
So to be completely honest, at this point, I'm in a final 2 with Paige, and I'm in a final 3 with Santi and Tara. And at that point for me, I'm like, Paige is a really big threat in this game. At some point, she's going to either go for me, I'm going to go for her. Like, this is a real final 2, and ... Like, you know, and so from what I'm remembering, she brought up the flushing the thing, and she's my final 2. So when she comes to me with that, I'm like, yeah, like, how would we do it? I'm entertaining it. But that was never going to be good for me, and I never wanted to do that. I had Tara telling me that no matter what, she was going to play the super idol for me. And I had Santi saying the same thing about his idol. Even if I wanted to go to the end with other people, I have, like, there's a path, you know? So I'm thinking, I don't think flushing an idol is in my best interest. So unless Paige is going to push that, and she never really pushed it, so I never really tried to make plans for it.
I think that's kind of where my head was, is collectively, like, we decided the strategy to get all the idols at the marketplace. And for me, knowing that my number one had it, I always thought like she would hold up to, you know, in the event that we had to do it, like she would help someone out. And that was always the case, and that was always what was said to go down. You
I
know,
think she would have for us.
yeah, I mean, we'll see, but like it's definitely like it's tough once you get into the game deciding, all right, because had I had something, like you guys had something, I had nothing. And so I felt as though if I'm close to these 3 other people that have something, that means I'm closer to having something if needed.
Right.
But like, I don't think you should play the game that way. I just didn't have a whole lot of other options at the time because of how chaotic the game had become in those moments. Had we went from a merge and then we were straight merge tribe and there was no splitting up, I think then the conversation could have gotten more real about, all right, in the event that I need this idol, like, what are you doing? In the event that Santi, Katie needs this idol, what are you doing? Because I think we would have had to have put Tara on the spot at that point and go, what are we doing here? You know, and if the answer wasn't what we wanted to do, then we have the numbers, and I think we could easily get more numbers to get that thing out of there. But we go to tribal. Tribal won. You know, T basically is convinced it's either her or Jess, and the votes go down, and it is unanimously, you know, outside of T's vote, it was her. You know, it sucks that, you know, the tribe split. That's what it created, you know, but obviously she was happy with the game that she played, and she will say to this day that pooling our money and buying the idols at the marketplace was the dumbest idea known to man, and it probably was. But
I think she claimed that idea too.
Yeah,
she definitely claimed the idea. So I don't know if she I think she was the one who threw out that idea, but I also know, like, there was how many other people in there, Katie, that was like, okay,
yeah.
like,
I mean, I jumped on it right away because I wonder what would have happened if the market and this whole thing was introduced a little bit later, because it was introduced, we just met each other. So who's gonna, when someone suggests this, you don't want to be the one to say, no, let's not. I think we saw that on the other side with you guys, Natasha, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I was the first one on my tribe to go to the market, and I didn't want to come home with anything because I didn't want to look like a threat. So, and again, we didn't have enough coins anyways. You guys had way more coins, so it didn't matter. I couldn't buy an apple if I wanted to, but
I should have asked Jason when we had production on if they would have decided to do like idols not at every trip to the marketplace. So like some people would go in there and their idols, and then it becomes a game of, now do you tell people what you actually saw in there?
Right.
Because I was as honest could be about that.
And Jason's really pushing this. He comments, the only way to find out is to run it back. Jason, everybody is ready. 2026, the run back. Let's go.
That'd be so fun.
It would be tough. Like if we ran that back, Katie, what would, like, up until this point, like, would you want, like, knowing what you know about the first 8 episodes and where everything is and like how the idols were bought and purchased, would you want it to be the same type of game, or would you want it to be a different type of game?
That's a really good question. I think I'm this kind of person that, like, I like, it is what it is and it happened that way. So I like that it happened that way, you know?
Yeah.
I think we did what we did with it. And I think that kind of game is super cool. I'm not someone, I'm so scared of seemingly being a threat and not being able to get out of it. I'm not someone that goes out and finds things, and I'm like scared of ticks and bugs. And like Natasha's literally 10 feet under the cottage, like searching for things. I would have felt ticks in my hair all night, just out of paranoia.
No, I got Joelle to go under there, and I got T to go under there for me. I didn't actually do it. I just as much as my hand would reach.
No one ever has to worry about me having an idol in a game where it's a setup of finding it in the wilderness. Like, I will never have one. Send me into a market. I don't know. Maybe I will. But I'm not someone that wants the advantages because they scare me. I don't want to have to lie in a game. I'm not.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because that's something I definitely struggled with.
Yeah.
When when I was with Hannah, I would tell Hannah, yeah, I want to be with you. And then if I was with you, yeah, I want to be with you. But I wasn't really, like, I was really more honest because I was honestly feeling that at that moment.
Totally.
But like Joelle could just talk out both sides of his mouth. Like, how do you go from one conversation to another? And that was part of the reason why I found myself in the woods all the time, because I wasn't comfortable talking to someone and saying, yeah, I'm voting you out.
It's like when you lie to keep up with your other lies, and like it becomes this game, and it's like I can't keep it all straight. It's like
I can't. I'm not that smart.
I gotta walk away. I just got to. And that's,
sometimes you have to lie.
Oh yeah.
But I don't want to have to lie about having an idol. Like, I'd rather just not have an idol.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because if you lie about it and then people find out about
Right.
it, then you know what's about to happen. And
Right.
then you get labeled, and the last thing you want to get is labeled in a Survivor style game.
I mean,
But
even with you, Dan, I was like, yeah, I think you're going to be the next vote. Like, I actually feel bad that I even said that, but I'm just so honest. Like, I can't hide it.
yeah,
So
it's
sorry, but
no,
I
it's
didn't wanna
fine.
lie
I think that is not a bad quality to have. Like, it
I
keeps
think that
things
makes you
very
lie.
simple. Yeah,
Yeah.
it keeps things very simple. And what I do know is I would rather know I'm working with somebody who's honest and telling me the truth than to have to worry about, okay, are they telling me the truth? Are they telling me half truths? Or are they telling me what I want to hear? Or are they just flat out lying to my face and gaslighting the shit out of me? Right.
It's so funny hearing that from you, Dan, because that's not how the game's all about perception.
Mhm.
And that's not how I perceived you. I was like, this guy is messing with me. He just happened to fall in this Final Four with me. He doesn't really want to work with me. Every time I get in a one-on-one conversation with him, I think I'm boring him. I don't think he really wants to be. And you weren't doing anything. This is my perception of us. And I was like, yeah, the second he doesn't really need to work with me. And that's why I turned on you.
Hey, it's all good. I mean, I think once I swapped, then it was like, all right, I've got to do something to put myself in a position. And like, it wasn't like, my thought wasn't about the four that we had. It was like, how am I going to get to the next vote? How am I going to get to the next tribal? And I'm like, well, I'll have to mend all the fences once I get the opportunity. Right now, I just got to survive.
Right.
But
what was the thing with you and Tiana? How did that start? And it seemed like you were so close. Yeah, Dan and T. How did that happen? And what cemented it so closely?
So for me, I was playing a game that was very like introverted and laid back and like trying to just kind of sit back. I wanted to be able to almost like I picture myself like as the catcher of a baseball team, a guy that can see the entire field. And that's kind of where I wanted to be. I wanted to receive information, but be able to see where I needed to go. And when Tiana came in the mix, we went to go get wood, and it was wet as shit. Like, we were just there. We were just going to talk. And I wanted to get a chance to talk to her because I needed someone that was going to be vocal enough for me to be able to like whisper and tell things to. But I also felt as though she was very like forthcoming with information to me up front. And so I was like, if I can trust her, then that's another person that can go into the girls' bathroom and get intel and let me know what's actually being talked about. She may not tell me entirely everything, but she was very, very loyal to me in the game. I would say 90% of the time, which you can't be 100%, fully loyal to someone, because you have to play the fence sometimes too. And I think that's where it started. And then once we got swapped, then it was her and I and Jess, and it was like, I liked Jess, but T and I had a better connection at that point. So we just kind of got together, and I was like, we've got to flip somebody. Who are we going to get? And I was like, let me talk to Hannah. And so from then, once we were able to get Hannah, then it kind of solidified us really working together. And
was Tiana in that Hannah alliance with you?
Yes. Only because we had to have someone, and she was the one. Where it got a little messy is Hannah didn't want to vote Scott out originally, but T was like, if you're going to show us something, then you need to vote with us. And T wanted to work with Steven, and Hannah wanted to work with Scott. And so it was either Steven or Scott at that point. So
did you care? Did you have a preference?
I didn't care, because I knew that at that moment we had the numbers, and I was like, I'm not going to, like, we got the numbers. I'm not going to do anything that's going to prevent that from happening, because, you know, in the back of our head, well, Natasha has an idol. Like, what is she gonna do? And like things were getting like very, very chaotic at this tribal. But yeah, I think that's kind of where my allegiance fell in the moment because, like I said, you know, once you get put in a certain situation, you've got to do what you got to do to survive. And T was my outlet, you know. And then once we swapped, she was really my outlet to survive and keep moving forward. And I would have been out probably first if it hadn't have been for her. So I appreciate her doing that. And luckily I was able to stay around. It sucks that I walk into our tribal, Natasha, for this episode and I see her sitting in the jury. That sucked. But you know, I got much love for her. She's a very, very smart player. She's a very good player. And she, you know, it was very apparent from everyone. I think they knew she is not one that you want in the final three because if she gets there, she's got a pretty good shot of beating you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
She's an amazing player and so likable and so strategic. And Dan, you played that so well because given everything you just shared that I didn't really know about, Tiana being willing to push Hannah basically for you on what's ultimately better for your game. Because if the person Hannah wants out is out, I mean, Hannah wants to stay in is out, Hannah's then closer to you.
Yeah.
So you being able to sit back there and have Tiana push that vote for you. And then ultimately you get that because Hannah is now closer to you because who was it, Scott, that you wanted in? Scott's out. That's great. You know, you lined yourself up.
Yeah. And with Hannah, I think, you know, the hardest part was getting her to decide on her own whether what I was telling her game would have been better off by going with us or her thinking her game is going to be better off by staying true to the Lauren players. And I just, you know, I was able to pitch the four of us and you guys having power and like being able to get back. I was just like, if you're wanting to go far, like to me, it just makes sense for us to get through this and get to merge, because once we get to merge, I know all the right people right now.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing is the power. You mentioned that, the power. And you know, if the roles were reversed and you didn't, and your team didn't have that power behind it,
right?
I don't know.
Yeah. So we get to the second tribal, and Natasha, let me give you a little something, because this right here. I mean, a master class in how you play the game when you know that you're the vote, because you come out and you say, you know, you found something, and you'll give it to someone if they, you know, just go with you. Hannah calls you out. She's like, that's a bluff. Like, that's not real. Like, get out of here with that. But like you go, all right, I'm going to go and I'm going to read this when I go do my vote, and then I'll come back. And, you know, I'll ask you, when did you come up with this idea to pitch this?
I am telling you, everything was in the moment. I mean, all along I was saving stuff to make things just in case. Amazing. But none of this was pre-planned. This was like, I am fighting for my life, and that was it. It was like back up against the wall.
Yeah, I think, you know, I knew, I talked to Hannah. I knew where we were going there. Paige, I think, was, you know, her and Katie and I think we would get together and vote the same way, just, you know. But, you know, I don't ever, and this is going back to what we were talking about earlier, Katie, I don't remember having a full-blown conversation about this vote, and we probably should have. It could have been just as easy as what it ended up being, but like that's a part of this particular episode that I didn't quite see in us, and we probably did talk about it, but I don't know to what extent we talked about it. So I don't know. Do you remember, like, did we toy around with anybody else? I mean, because I know me, I was going to push Natasha all the way. Like
Right.
you guys, I could have been on the wrong side of votes on this, and I still would have voted Natasha.
I mean, Dan, I have to say thank you to you, because the only discussion we had about this was basically Natasha going up to you and Paige doing our thing, Natasha coming up to me getting tempted by Natasha, me coming to you and Paige and being like, she's saying this, and you were basically like, and we're all still voting her. And I was like, yeah, we are. I'll tell you, Natasha, 28 days, you'd be dangerous. You'd have 5 idols. You'd have all the alliance members. You like, if you had the only thing not going for you this round was time. Had you had more time to talk more, had we had one more night where you were lying next to me, chit-chatting in my ear all night, I would have messed up our whole side of the alliance, because you're so easy to fall for.
Oh, I appreciate that. But that would have been really great to have gotten to know you more. And I know I felt like I was so close. I knew it wasn't possible to flip you. But I had just appreciated the fact that you listened to me. Like, that's all I asked for was, can someone at least just listen to me? So thank you for that. And
I loved our talks. And I talked more to you. And then when I brought it back to you, Dan and Paige, you guys were not entertaining it for very good a reason.
I mean, you were not privy to the tribe swap, and then you were just privy to, you know,
just liking her
post merge split vote like
that. Right. I know you had so much more info.
You know, I respected the game that she was playing, but like I said, she was really making my game much more difficult than I wanted it to be.
Totally.
So Natasha, the storm came. We voted you, and no hard feelings. Like I said, I think
no, not at all. I had the best time. The best time. The fact that people go out of their way to do this in their spare time, and they don't make money on this. They're doing it for the spirit of the game. Cool. I love it. I'm so appreciative.
Absolutely. So before we bounce out of here, Natasha, this was your final episode of the season. I'll give you the floor to say anything, no spoilers now, but to say anything to anybody that you feel like maybe you didn't get a chance, maybe it wasn't edited in, or maybe you just, just feel after thinking about it and looking back on it, maybe you feel passionate about something that didn't happen that you wish would have. And the floor is yours.
The biggest thing I've reflected on is the fact that I felt like Joelle was able to flip so easily. Hannah, I understood a little bit because her and I, even though like personality wise, we really got along. I already had this thing going with all the guys. And so it really hurt me when Joelle like decided to leave the tribe that we had, like vote against his original tribe, because I was really there in my heart with him. And then with Santi, I don't even know why I picked on him. Like, it was not premeditated. I don't even know if I knew his name at that point.
He showed up at the right time. Look at this. He came in at the right time.
I just knew he had some mega power and I needed to expose it. And that was it. And I would believe that's probably the beginning of the end of my game. So.
But Natasha, I think that had Joelle and Santi not had known each other prior, I think it would have been a lot harder for Joelle to do what you're saying he did. Like, he was falling back on a relationship because he knew he could. Yeah. And who knows what that looks like if not,
Right.
So at this point in the game, us flipping Hannah, my thought was, okay, she could be that 5, but what I didn't see in the moment, and now like looking back on it in this episode, it was clear that Joelle, that Katie, you, Santi, and Tara were like, no, he's the 5th.
Not me, but I was being told that. I know more, but yeah.
And so like then it becomes this power struggle of like, all right, well, what are we gonna do? And that's gonna play out in the next few episodes on how all that goes down. But Natasha, it was a blast having you.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for not blacklisting me. And
No,
I'm just
no,
happy
no,
to be
no.
part of the circle again.
I anytime. Like I said, I care more about people outside of this game. The game is the game, and like I'll get mad. I'll play my kids in Monopoly, and I'll hate my kids during Monopoly game. But after it's over, like it's like it never happened. So it's all good. It's all love. Katie,
That's
what?
why it's so fun. That's why
Yeah.
it's so fun. We get to be so competitive and then like
Yep.
each other after.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
Like Katie, for you, up until episode 8, everything that we've seen, no spoilers now. Anything that you want to talk about, say anything that hasn't been put out there that you were like, man, I really wish that we would have seen that, or I said this or done that.
No, I think so far everything's out in the open. I'm really glad that we had this conversation, Dan, because I think that there was a lot of unsaid things between us of like just being in the same alliance and liking each other and wanting to work together, but never really having a one-on-one like lock it in moment.
Yeah.
And so I think that we're finding the puzzle pieces that we're missing. So it's cool to connect with you again.
Yeah, it was, hey, when we run it back in 2026, who knows what's going to happen? You never know. But for me, just appreciate y'all coming on. Obviously, everybody's been asking, where's Natasha? Where's Katie? Well, here they are.
I love it.
Yep. And Natasha, just because you were voted out, that doesn't mean you're voted out of the podcast. Anytime you want to come on, just let me know. We'll bring you on because you bring really good perspective to the game. I think I've learned in my first Survivor style LRG, which this was, I think I've learned a lot from your game. So there's that.
Thank you.
Likewise. And not necessarily things that I don't like, but like how to navigate the game in the game. And like you move very well, very quickly. Like I didn't find myself, or I didn't feel as though I was moving fast enough in a game that's 3 days long. And I feel like you on your toes, were constantly moving, constantly grooving, constantly thinking. And I think you got to be that way in a game like this. So
thank you.
Shout out to you.
So awesome. Thank you so much.
See you both.
Yeah, y'all too. So we're gonna end it there. I do actually, Natasha, anything you want to plug or promote? You got business, you got LRG.
Yeah, I'm writing some articles about life in Rochester Women Online magazine. Started in January, and don't take offense. It's just helpful advice for everyday life.
Look at that. I mean, you're more than just a Survivor player. You kill it. You kill it. Love it.
Thank you.
Katie, what about you? Are you applying for any games? Anything you want to plug or promote? Any games out there that you guys are putting on?
I am patiently awaiting playing in this summer season of Survival Challenge, which I'm very excited and very nervous for. It's the second chance comeback game. So looking forward to that. Very nervous, but excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. The one that I'll plug, and it's in my backyard. I've been asking for an LRG in Florida, just in Florida, but now there's one in Tampa, which is where I'm at. So Survivor USF, University of South Florida, has a tribal council. It's their club, and it's Survivor based club, and they are now moving into the LRG field, and they just finished their first season, and the first episode aired on Wednesday. So if you want to check that out on YouTube, Survivor USF, you can check them out there. Season 1, episode 1 is dropped, and they also have applications that are good until February 25th. So if you're wanting to come down to the sunny state of Florida, they got the applications out for season 2. So hit it up.
Cool.
But if you're someone who maybe doesn't want to come to Florida, but you do want to play an LRG, go over to Instagram, LRG_casting, and you'll see a ton of LRG games that are either getting ready to apply, that are being promoted, or applications are currently open. You'll see where to get the season info, where to get more information. Maybe if you want to check out some of the prior seasons, you can go to YouTube and find those, but everything is there. and Jason says, hey, thank you all for being a part of this. Love you all. Much love to you, Jason. Appreciate you. Thank you. 2026, we're running it back, baby. Running it back. But for me, for Natasha, for Katie, this has been the Live Reality Games Podcast, Survivor Angelica Medieval Mayhem recap show. We'll be back next Thursday. It's going to be another sweet episode this Friday, 7 p.m. YouTube. You can catch it there. And we'll be back the following Thursday to recap it all. So appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Good luck with everything. And hey, maybe we'll see you in another game sometime. I hope. All right. Peace, y'all. We're out.
Bye.